Lots of good cooks and lots of good food and wonderful recipes too. But for a meal that makes folks smile, there's one thing you must do. Cook it with love. Cook it with love. Cook it with love. Love is a great ingredient, the best that we can find. The simplest meal that's cooked with love will nourish humankind. Cook it with love. Cook it with love. Cook it with love. Hello and welcome to Tasha's Kitchen of Cooking Without a Kitchen show. It's always good to see you again, and we haven't made a show in a while, so it's really fun to be back. Now, I am making today something that is so simple we are not giving you a recipe. So keep watching and you'll see how easy it is to do. I'm making basically lunch, if you will, or dinner, whichever you prefer, and a very simple one that you can make within a half an hour because that's what we have to cook in. And I'm going to start by boiling some pasta. Now this is rice pasta, so it takes a little longer to cook. And I'm going to put that in my pot here and measuring about half the package because I'm serving 3 of us. Now some of you probably don't break up your pasta. Some of you do. I'm one who does, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to break up the pasta and put it in gently and gradually. And then when it comes back to a boil, it'll be ready to cook. And we'll keep an eye on it. It can take up to 18 or 20 minutes to cook, so we want to be sure that by the time we get it ready, it's all done. Okay, so let me see, maybe a little bit more here. Put some of this back. 1 package of this pasta says it serves 8 people. Well, I don't know. Maybe some of you have bigger appetites, so you may want to have perhaps a little more. But we're going to stir it, and then we're going to put the cover back on so that... Now, you can put in salt at this point if you want, and it's probably a good thing to do if you like it. But if you're cooking for somebody who has high blood pressure, maybe you're going to keep the salt at a minimum, in which case you can salt it once you get it on the table, or anyone who wants to can salt it once they get on the table. Now I'm using my electric frying pan to make the stir-fried vegetables, and the pasta is going to cook, and we're going to stir it occasionally, and there's only 3 ingredients in this dish. Well, not counting the olive oil. Put a little olive oil on. There's the pasta, there's lemon, and there's smoked salmon. Now this is a really good way to use something that's relatively expensive. A small quantity of it will make a very nice meal for, well, let's say 4 to 6 people, depending on how much pasta you're using. But you only need half of a package of the smoked salmon for a 4-ounce package. You only need 2 ounces of smoked salmon, and maybe half a lemon is good. So we keep stirring it, make sure it doesn't stick. Okay, so this is starting to boil nicely, and once it does, we'll take the cover off. And in the meantime, we're going to put some olive oil into the stir-fried vegetables. Now, the interesting thing about stir-fried vegetables is you can cook any combination of vegetables. But one of the main things is to make sure that you're cooking the vegetables at the same, that cook at the same rate, or else you have to be very careful how you're going to put them in. Now, for instance, I never put carrots in my stir fry because they take so much longer to cook, being root vegetables. But if you wanted to, I suppose you could, but you should cut them up very small in that case, or very thin. And even so, put them in first and let them cook a little bit. But I think stir fry is very nice with just the way it comes. Let's stir that again. I hear boiling noises, yes. Now, let's see. I'm going to let that, take that cover, put it here. I don't think we need it now. And I'm cutting up the onion. Now, some people have problems with onion. I don't. I find that the only time I have problems with onion, it's going to sound funny, but it's true, is when I feel anxious or nervous or disturbed in some way. And then sometimes the onion will affect my eyes and make me feel teary. But I feel good today and I'm not having any problems with the onions. I like to cut them fairly thin. I think another thing you want to be mindful of when you're cutting up your vegetables is the texture. So if you make all your vegetables the same size, it's going to make for kind of a bland texture. Me, I like something a little bit more interesting. So we're putting in, usually a half an onion is enough unless you want a lot of onion in your recipe, in which case of course you'll want more onion. But I'm going to go with half an onion. One of the things I really love, I love the smell of onions frying up, you know. And I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. Or maybe do I need to turn this down or not? Let's see. I want to be sure it cooks properly. So we're keeping an eye on the time here to make sure that it cooks in a good length of time. So let's see. Put some onion in there. Turn this down a little bit. That's another thing. You don't want to cook things on too high a temperature. If you do, you're apt to burn them. And then you can pick and choose what kind of vegetables you want. Today I have chosen a pepper. Now I like the red peppers the most because for me they're the most digestible. The sweet red peppers are so tasty, and I like the color that they present too. Because I do not eat tomatoes, I am allergic to them, which is a big nuisance when you go out to eat because so many things have tomatoes in them. And the other thing I use my scissors a lot, and I find that they work very well when you want to do something like vegetables quickly. Here. So you see now the onion pieces are small, the pepper pieces are a little bigger. That it makes for a more interesting looking dish as well as a more interesting tasting dish. I mean, stir-fry vegetables sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? But it is. But it is also something to think about how you want to prepare it. And what sort of vegetables you want to use in it. How many people you're expecting to eat your vegetables is another thing to think about. So, cutting up our vegetables. It's kind of fun, you know. Another thing too, if you're cooking with children and you don't want them using a sharp knife, you hand them the scissors and let them cut things up. And then they can help you with preparation. Children love to cook. It's one of their favorite things to do. Well, most children anyway. Especially boys. I mean, you know, I suppose it's no accident that a lot of the chefs in this world are men, the famous ones. And there are plenty of famous women chefs now, but in the olden days, it used to be less. And that's cooking very nicely. And the thing about a stir fry is you don't really have to hurry it. Ah, that's cooking very nicely. Good, good, good. Not to stick together now. I talk to my food. Does that sound silly? It's okay though. I don't mind. I don't mind if I sound silly once in a while. Okay, let's see. What else are we going to add now? We have lots of choices. Today I brought some Chinese cabbage because I thought it might be fun to use a vegetable that people don't see as often at the table. Now the Chinese cabbage is very, very good. And the other nice thing about it is it provides a nice sort of a crunch to it. Now we don't use the green part here. And I'm going to, again, use my scissors. And this time I'm going to cut it like this. And then I'm going to go like this. Now Chinese cabbage is just another kind of cabbage, really. And I find now that my stir fry is getting a little brown, so guess what? Instead of adding more oil, I'm adding some chicken broth. And this is a little secret for people who want to keep their calories lower. Keep a little chicken broth, beef broth, or you can just add water if you want to, but it's nice to add flavor, or vegetable broth if you're a vegetarian. But then, you see, you're still basically stir frying, but you're doing it with less problems, potential problems of things getting too well cooked. There we are. Keep on boiling. Nice, nice, nice. Alrighty, now more Chinese cabbage. Another thing that I find too is if you make vegetable stir fry and let's say you don't eat it all up, it's either very good, reheated, it's already cooked so it doesn't take very long, or, and this is an interesting little trick, you can put it into soup. So take your chicken broth or your beef broth or your vegetable broth, whatever you like. And I'm going to also add some garlic I have here. And then just put the cooked vegetables in and presto changeo, you have instant soup. If you have leftover rice, you can put some of the rice in. The one thing I don't normally put into soup at all is pasta. And nor do I put pasta leftovers into soup. If pasta is cooked too long, it simply becomes glue. Well, flour and water make glue, and flour and water make pasta. So you can see, that's about all the Chinese cabbage. I'm not using a lot of any one vegetable for the fun of it. Now, another vegetable that we don't always think about is celery. The thing I like about celery a lot, actually, is that it's very good for you, and it presents very few calories. So what I like to do when I'm cooking, I like to take the outer leaves of the celery, which tend to be a bit tougher, and use those, and then keep the inner leaves for eating raw. They make wonderful snacks. And you will also find them as they make a great substitute for crackers. For instance, if you feel like having